I can read. Hello, ladies and gents. I want to influence the youth for today, young teenagers, mature teenagers, young adults, mature adults, OAPs. Firstly, you need to do something methodical. Youngsters, up and coming adults, young adults. If you want to bet yourself, broaden your horizon, have a vision, make that change. Get into recording your reading. I'm recording on YouTube, just so everyone knows. Record your reading. Make sure you reference your reading so you can listen. You can read for 3 hours to an hour, half hour, and you come back to listen to where you left off, so it sinks in. Also, make sure you reference your reading. So we're reading the New English Bible, the New Testament. It could be any version. There's like so many versions of the Bible. This is Christian as well, just so you know. So people know what book you're reading. Oxford University Press. This is where the book was printed. Cambridge University Press, 1961. It's printed in Great Britain at University Press. Cambridge Brook Crutchley University printer. So there, the tutor would engage with. You got the exact same book that they've got. It's printed in the same place. The author is the same place, and we're on page 70. Mark 7. Groom intention. To be fair, that's a bit with a Bible to something else. It's because like I could have something from the Bible in my book. See, I could be reading that, and people go, "Oh, is that the Bible? What he's reading?" So that's why you have to do referencing. Just say no, because you could get the tutor confused with something else, or whoever, listener, perhaps. Anyway, Mark 7, verses 14 all the way down to 36. Grow intention. On another occasion, he called the people and said to them, "Listen to me, all of you." I want a highlighter because I like highlighting things and using it as a discussion later. And understand this: nothing that goes into a man from outside can defile him. No, it is the things that come out of him that defile a man. When he had left the people and gone indoors, his disciple questioned him about the parable. He said to them, "Are you as dull as the rest? Do you not see that nothing that goes from outside into a man can defile him? Because it does not enter into his heart, but into his stomach, and so passes out into the drain. Thus he declared all foods clean." He went on, "It is what comes out of a man that defiles him. For from inside, out of a man's heart, come evil thoughts, acts of fornication, of theft, murder, adultery, ruthless greed, and malice, fraud, indecency, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. These evil things all come from inside, and they defile the man." Then he left that place, and he went away into the territory of Terry. He found a house to stay in, and he would have liked to remain unrecognized, but this was impossible. Almost at once, I just want to highlight that whole parable, that whole passage. Sorry. So 14 to 24. So then he left the place and went into the territory of Terry. He found a house to stay in, and he would like to remain unrecognized, but this was impossible. Almost at once, a woman whose daughter was possessed by an unclean spirit heard of him, came in, and fell at his feet. She was a Gentile, a Phoenician of Syria by nationality. She begged him to drive the spirit out of her daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be satisfied first. Yeah, it's not fair to take the children's bread and throw it into the dogs." She answered. "Sir," she answered, "even the dogs under the table eat the children's scraps." He said to her, "For saying that, you may go home content. The unclean spirit has gone out of your daughter." And when she returned home, she found the child lying in bed. The spirit had left her. On his return journey from Tyrian territory, he went on by the way of Sidon to the Sea of Galilee through the territory of the 10 towns. They brought to him a man who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech. Who on earth is that? With the request that he would lay his hands on him, he took the man aside, away from the crowd, put his fingers into his ears, spat, and touched his tongue. Then looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, Ephata, which means be open. With that, his ears were opened. And at the same time, the impediment was removed, and he spoke plainly. Jesus forbade them to sell anyone. But the more he forbade them, the more they published it. They're astonished, no bounds. All that he does well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the dumb speak. There was another occasion about this time when a huge crowd had collected, and as they had no food, Jesus called his disciples and said to them, I feel sorry for all these people. They have been with me now for 3 days and nothing to eat. If I send them home unfed, they will turn faint on the way. Some of them have come from a distance. The disciples answered, How can anyone provide all these people with bread in this lonely place? How many loaves have you? He asked. And they answered, 7. So he ordered the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves. Nice to hear, mate. And after giving thanks to God, he broke the bread and gave it to his disciples to distribute. And they served it out to the people. They had also a few small fishes, which had been blessed, and ordered them to distribute. They all ate their heart's content. Even 7 baskets were filled with the scraps that were left. The people numbered about 4 husbands. Then he dismissed them, and without delay, got into the boat with the disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. The Pharisees came out and engaged him in the discussion. To test him, they asked him for a sign from heaven. He sighed deeply to himself and said, Why does the generation ask for a sign? I tell you this, no sign shall be given to this generation. With what he left them, we embarked and went off to the other side of the lake. Now they were forgotten to take the bread with them and had no more than 1 loaf in the boat. Hi, Misty. He began to warn them. Beware, he said. Be on your guard against the 11, the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. They said among themselves, It is because we have no bread. Knowing what it is in their minds, he asked them, Why do you not talk about having bread? No bread. Have you no inkling yet? Do you still not understand? Are your minds closed? You have eyes, can you not see? You have ears, can you not hear? Have you forgotten? When I broke the 5 loaves among 5,000, how many basketfuls or scraps did you pick up? 12, they said. And how many I broke? The 7 loaves among the 4,000, they answered. 7, he said. Do you still not understand? They arrived in Bethsaida. The people brought a blind man to Jesus. Hello, amen. To Jesus and begged him to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him away out of the village. Then he spat on his eyes, laid his hands upon him and asked whether he could see anything. The man's sight began to come back and he said, I see men. They look like trees, but they are still walking about. Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again. He looked hard, and now he was cured so that he saw everything clearly. Then Jesus sent him home, saying, Do not tell anyone in the village. Jesus and his disciples set out the villages of Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked his disciples, Who do men say I am? They answered. Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, others one of prophets, and you, he asked. Who do you say I am? Peter replied. You are the Messiah. Then he gave them strict orders not to tell anyone about it. And then he began to teach them that the Son of Man had undergo the great sufferings and to be rejected by the elders, chief priests and doctors of the law, to be put to death and to rise again 3 days afterwards. He spoke out about it in plainly. At this, Peter took him by the arm and began to rebuke him. But Jesus turned round and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. Away with you, Satan, he said. You think as a man thinks, not as God thinks. Then he called the people to him, as well as disciples, and they said to him, anyone who wishes to be a follower of mine must leave self behind. He must take up the cross and come with me. Whoever cares for his own safety is lost, but if a man will let himself be lost for the sake and for the gospel, that man is safe. What does a man gain from winning the whole world at the cost of his true self? What can he give to buy the self back? If anyone is ashamed of me and mine in this wicked and godless age, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in from glory and in his Father and of the holy angels. He also said, I tell you this, there are some of these standing here who will not taste death before they have even seen the kingdom of God already come in power. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and led them up the high mountain where they were all alone. And in their presence, he was transfigured. His clothes become dazzling white and whiteness no bleacher on earth could equal. They saw Elijah appear and Moses with him, and there they were, conversing with Jesus. Then Peter spoke. Rabbi, he said, how good it is that we are here. Shall we make 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah? For he did not know what to say. They were so terrified. Then a cloud appeared, casting its shadow over them. And out of the cloud come a voice. This is my son, my beloved, listen to him. And now suddenly, when they looked around, there was nobody to be seen, but Jesus alone with themselves. On their way down to the mountain, he rejoined them not to tell anyone what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. They seized upon those words and discussed among themselves what is the rising from the dead could mean. And they were put to a question to him. Why do our teachers say that Elijah must be the first to come? He replied, yes, Elijah does not come first to set everything right. Yes, yet how it is it that the scriptures say, the Son of Man, that he is to endure great sufferings and to be treated with contempt. However, I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they have worked their will upon him, as the scriptures say of him. When they come back to the disciples, they saw a large crowd surrounding them with lawyers surrounding them. As soon as they saw Jesus, the whole crowd were overcome with awe, and they ran forward to welcome him. He asked, what is this argument about? A man in the crowd spoke up, Master, I brought my son to you. He is possessed by the Spirit. He is possessed by a spirit and makes him speechless. Whenever it attacks him, it dashes him to the ground, and he foams at the mouth, grinds his teeth, and goes rigid. I asked your disciples to cast out, but they failed. Jesus answered, what about unbelieving the perverse generation? How long shall we be with you? How long must I endure you? Bring it to me. So they brought so they brought a boy to him. They brought a boy to him. As soon as the spirit saw him, they threw the boy into the convulsions, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked for his father, How long has he been like this? From childhood, he replied. Often it has tried to make him the end of him by throwing him into the fire or into the water. But if it was at all possible for you, take pity upon us and help us. If it is possible, said Jesus, everything is possible to one who has faith. I have faith, cried the boy's father. Help me. Where faith falls short. Jesus saw that the crowd was coming in upon them, so he rebuked the unclean spirit. Deaf and dumb spirit, he said, I command you, come out and never go back. After crying aloud and rackling fiercely, it came out, and the boy looked like a corpse. In fact, many said, he is dead. But Jesus took his hand and raised him to his feet, and he stood up. Then Jesus went indoors, and his disciples asked him in privately, Why could we not cast it out? He said, There is no means of casting out this sort but prayer. They now left the district and made a journey through Galilee. Jesus wished it to be kept secret, for he is teaching his disciples and telling them, the Son of Man is now to be given up into the power of men. And they will kill him. And 3 days after they killed, he will rise again. But they did not understand what he said, and they were afraid to ask. So they come to Capernaum, and when he was indoors, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" They were silent because on the way they had been discussing who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "If anyone wants to be first, he must make himself last, of all a servant of all." Then he took a child and set him in front of them and put them in his arm around them. "Whoever receives one of these children in my name," he said, "receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but the one who sent me." John said to him, "Master, we saw a man driving out devils in your name, and he is not one of us." He tried to stop him. Jesus said, "Do not stop him. No one who does not work on the divine power in my name will be able to the same breath to speak evil of me. For he is not against us, is on our side. I'll tell you this, if anyone gives you a cup of water to drink because you are the followers of this Messiah, the man assuredly will not be under-rewarded. As for the man who pleads astray, one of these little ones who have faith, it would be better for him to be thrown into the sea with a millstone around his neck. If your hand is your undoing, cut it off. If it is better for you to enter into life maimed than to keep both your hands and go into hell with unquenchable fire. And if it is your foot that leads you astray, cut it off. It's better for you to go into life a cripple than to keep both your feet and to be thrown into hell. And if it is your eye that tear it out, it's better to enter the kingdom of God with one eye and to keep both eyes and be thrown into hell, where the devouring worm never dies and the fire is not quenched. For everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is a good thing. But if the salt loses its saltness, what will you season it with? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another. On leaving those parts, he come into the region of Judah and Transjordan. And when the crowd gathered round him once again, he followed his unusual practice and taught them. The question was put to him, it was lawful for a man to divorce his wife. This was to test him. He asked in return, "What did Moses command you?" They answered, "Moses permitted a man to divorce his wife by no dismissal." Jesus said to them, "It was because you were so unteachable that you made this rule for you. But in the beginning, at all creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be made one with his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. It follows that they are no longer two individuals, they are one flesh. What God has joined together, man must not separate." When they were indoors, again the disciples questioned him about this matter. He said to them, "Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. So, too, if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery." They brought children from him to touch, and the disciples scolded for it. But Jesus saw this, was indignant, and said to them, "Let the children come to me, and do not try and stop them." I've got to stop reading for a bit. I'm tired. Oh, stop, man. That's not good. I've done about 5 pages. It's just too tired. I don't feel it.